Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. You know what they say, if you can't beat 'em, costume 'em. My half-sister wanted to show up in a wedding dress to my engagement party, so I changed the party theme so she would fit right in. Editor's note, OP's original post from Petty Revenge was also posted in Am I the A-Hole a couple weeks prior. June 23rd, 2022. After 39 messages in my inbox asking me to post here, I will. My half-sister, Heather, and I never really got along. We both are 24. My father left my mother for her mother, and we were born the same month, 20 days apart. It has always been weird. It doesn't help that Heather's mom hates me and my mom. By extension, Heather and I didn't have the best relationship. She has always tried to one-up me, even though we both have a similar economic background. I can give examples of this, but for the sake of the word limit, I won't write them here. So now my fiance and I got engaged last month and had our engagement party this Saturday. We had planned it originally as a casual formal event. Nice dresses, but not, I'm going to the Met Gala ball nice. More like, we are going to a good restaurant nice. Anyway, my cousin hits me up saying she has to show me something. It was the picture of the dress Heather was going to wear. Edit. This is what the dress looked like approximately. It was a bit shorter and a bit less puffy. The rest almost identical. This dress, Jesus Christ, it can only be described as opulent. It was long and white, strapless, with sewn-in crystals and golden accents. I'm pretty sure it's a wedding dress, but I can't be 100%. This made me really mad, so I decided, F that. I started texting people telling them that there had been a change of plans, and that instead of casual formal, I decided to make a costume party. My mother's side is crazy for Halloween, so they were immediately on board. I told my father via text and asked him to relay the message to Heather and her mother, knowing full well that he would forget or leave it to the last minute. Saturday comes along. Guests start showing up, most of them in costumes. Some didn't have time to get one. We just provided them with fun hats and cheap wigs. Heather, my dad, and her mother come like 1 hour late. As soon as she notices that everyone was either wearing elaborate costumes or weird accessories and she didn't stand out, she lost it. Especially when my fiance came along and told her that her bride dress looked amazing for a cheap costume. She left crying, and her mother and my father told me that I was being childish and I could have told Heather myself and not have tasked my father. For those interested, my fiance was dressed as Bubbles and I was dressed as Mojo Jojo. My mom and aunts went as ABBA. Other memorable costumes were Luffy and Zorro, Ian Malcolm, and John Hammond, and Jesus. Edit. So why did I invite her? It's one of those weird family situations where not inviting them would have been more dramatic. You know, when you try pleasing everyone. Plus, I still wanted a relationship with my father, so not inviting Heather and her mom would have made things super difficult and made it so my father would have had to choose. When I kept thinking of it, I noticed that my father wouldn't have chosen me on this scenario, which is why I ended up cutting them off. You let her win. No, the point of this is to ruin my half-sister's intention. She wasn't just dressed nicely, as some of you put it. She wore a wedding dress to my engagement party. I'd much rather subvert the whole mess rather than having her smugly sitting at the table with her wedding dress. Also, some of you are really hung up on cheap wigs part and ignore literally everything else regarding the party. A minority of our guests wore those cheap wigs. Also, it literally doesn't matter. We had a blast. After she left, I didn't even think of her again till a few days later. I don't regret the costume party. I wish I thought of it earlier, to be honest. This is a karma whoring repost. No, it isn't. I posted this story before on Am I the A-Hole? I just had to wait 2 weeks to post on here. Also, I can't believe I have to go say this, but the lady in the picture is not Heather. It's also not the dress she wore. I looked for a picture that looked approximately like the dress. I don't care if you are from Fox or Bored Panda or BuzzFeed or whatever paper. No, I won't give you an exclusive interview. This is not even newsworthy. What the F kind of journalism is that supposed to be? Editor's note. The verdict for the Am I the A-Hole post removed before it was rendered. Edit. I didn't think I would have to mention that I have indeed tried to talk to Heather, her mother, and my father 1,000,000 times about her behavior. It never helps, and she's just something more outrageous. All the ways of diplomacy and dialogue have been exhausted. And so am I. Edit 2. Some people seem to think this is about my wedding. It is an engagement party. Heather wasn't the one to show me what she was going to wear. My cousin did. Also, this is not about Heather wearing a nice dress. Heather was going to wear something that looked suspiciously like a wedding dress. The dress code stated casual formal, not white tie. And for the curious, my fiancé dressed as Bubbles and I went as Mojo Jojo. My mom and aunts went as ABBA, my cousin was Monkey D. Luffy, and his husband was Zoro minus the katanas. Now let's see some relevant comments. First up, I saw your post on Am I the A-hole first. What you did was so petty, I love it. Please tell me you disinvited them to your entire wedding after that, though. The OP replies, I have officially gone no contact with that side of the family. My father was a spineless slug. I never looked forward to seeing him and had little love left for him. Someone else chimes in, I read your Am I the A-hole post. Why do you have Heather in your life? Keep this in mind. Yes, I get that you would like a relationship with your father. That's fine. No judgment from me on that front. As far as your father's wife and his child with her, she might be a half-sibling, but you have zero obligations to her, in my opinion. I wouldn't keep inviting her anywhere, especially since she tries to outshine you. In fact, I remember commenting on your Am I the A-hole post. If your father is insisting that to have a relationship with him you must have one with his wife and child, well, there's a choice for you to make. I would not tolerate this disrespect, bullying, and abuse by her. She may share a father with you, but she's really gross, and I wouldn't have her in my life. The OP replies, it's one of those weird family situations where not inviting them would have been more dramatic. You know, where you try pleasing everyone? Plus, I still wanted a relationship with my father, so not inviting Heather and her mom would have made things super difficult and made it so my father would have had to go choose. When I kept thinking of it, I noticed that my father wouldn't have chosen me on this scenario, which is why I ended up cutting them off. Ooh la la, OP. I've got to hand it to you, though. You really know how to throw a curveball. Turning your engagement shindig into a costume party? Genius. And the icing on the cake? Making sure your sister's over-the-top wedding dress became just another prop in the carnival of chaos. But hey, let's give credit where credit's due. You didn't just throw shade, you threw a whole dang eclipse. And judging by the way your sister hightailed it out of there, it looks like the spotlight wasn't exactly shining on her for once. The best part? You didn't even have to lift a finger to deliver the ultimate clapback. Just a few strategic texts, a sprinkle of Halloween spirit, and voila! Your half-sister's grand entrance turned into a fashion faux pas of epic proportions. Update, 20 months later. I had planned countless times to update this post. I even asked the mods if it was allowed, but I was too lazy and always stopped halfway through. Anyway, I keep seeing my post as an MFing TikTok. I also saw an account that pretended to have an update. Apparently my husband cheated with my half-sister, my mother exploded, and my grandma is a dog. To the update. I got married. It was an eventful and thankfully drama-free day. My father was not in attendance. After my engagement party, I realized that he would never choose me willingly. Even if he loves me, he doesn't love me enough to stand up for me. He constantly allows his wife and daughter to walk over me and even become abusive. So I wrote him a lengthy email from my old school days email account. It detailed my resentful feelings against him and uninvited him from the wedding. Then I logged out. Because I know myself. I would be upset with his answer, and if he wouldn't not answer, I would also be upset. I also blocked him and his family from all access. And I went cold turkey. Freezing even. I changed phone providers and deleted my social media accounts for a while. He did try to contact me through my mother. She said it was just upsetting, so I told her I did not want to know. So I cut him off. And boy, my life improved drastically. We had an amazing wedding. Unhinged things that happened after the wedding. I got a cease and desist letter from my half-sister. It was very vague and weird, but we quickly found out that it was only a Google copy-paste. My stepmother followed me to the supermarket and tried to intimidate me, to apologize to Heather. She made the produce wildly uncomfortable. My father tried to pick me up at work. He was walking next to me. While I went to my car, he was trying to get me to apologize to Heather and her mom. He said that I should be the bigger person and that I know how both of them are. So I just told him that he must be mistaken because my father is dead. He just stood there as I drove off. Then they started to bother the rest of the extended family. Heather and her mom apparently wanted them to cut me off finally, which backfired spectacularly because now they are cut off, which also means that they are excluded from a lot of family events that they weren't looking forward to. Plus, they can't use my uncle's cabin. So Heather's mom had allegedly been at her sister's since the whole breakdown. I have to be honest, I don't know how much of this is true. As you know, the toxic gossip train always has to be taken with a grain of salt. I don't know, but I think it's funny. A sad thing is that I didn't even miss my father. His absence has made zero negative effect on my life. We did have one more costume party around Halloween, but this time we gave everyone more time and it was even more fun. My mom's side of the family all pitched in. We got a venue and invited a bunch of people. I recommend this totally. I met so many of my cousins, friends, who I have kept in touch with. Nothing else has changed. I still have my old job. I'm not pregnant. We have the same old apartment. We did redecorate though. So that is all for me. Not all too dramatic. Now for some relevant comments. First up, what was the fake cease and desist for? Stop holding costume parties? The OP replied, for disruptive behavior. I found the template she used in everything. One more person says, just curious, how is your mom with your father in all of this? Is she remarried? Hopefully she did better after the trash took itself out. The OP replies, she has a longtime partner. He is very lovely. I mean, getting a cease and desist letter from your half-sister, I guess everybody thinks they know something nowadays when it comes to Google. And your stepmother's little intimidation tactic at the supermarket? Priceless. I bet the produce aisle never saw that coming. As for your extended family getting caught in the crossfire, well, that's just the cherry on the top. Who knew cutting off toxic relatives could lead to so much peace and quiet? Looks like your father's absence is about as noticeable as a silent fart in a hurricane. But hey, at least you got your trusty costume party to keep things interesting. And redecorating the old apartment? Now that's what I call living on the edge. What would you have done to get back at your stepsister? Let us know in the comments below. And thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell before you leave. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's topic, so feel free to leave a comment. See you next time on rLounge.